people! It's me, Lorena Lee, here with Home Church. This is episode 8, which I'm pretty stoked about because when I first started this, I told myself I just at least 8 episodes, and I'm here! I'm here! Made it to the 8th episode, so that's pretty good news. I got a pretty cool guest coming on today, a children's book author, and so I'm just going to start this show out with a song, and the theme is connection. So I thought my song, Headstrong, would be a solid starter. Oh. Man, you would think after 8 episodes, I would be able to have troubleshooted everything. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, here we are. Alright, so sing along if you want. You know, this song is all about connection and just going for it, so... And also the other thing is my nephew is sleeping downstairs, so I might not be able to do it as loud because I'm very loud in this song. So this might be a smaller version, but yeah. Anyway, glad y'all are here. It is a beautiful day in Texas today. Oh, there's magic in these moments. Oh, there's magic with you. Oh, there's shimmer, and then there's lightning. I'll remember you well. Don't ever don't ever go away, because I'm wrapped in your arms, your accidental charm, your gentle ease, singing, baby, baby, please carry me headstrong. I'm afraid to be wrong, 'cause if it turns out we're right, we'll be really, really proud. Carry me headstrong. I'm afraid to be wrong, 'cause if it turns out we're right, we'll be really, really, really so right. Oh, there's bitter than those sweet nectar. You make me better. I don't know why. Oh, there's glitter. It's on the water. If I could just freeze frame each moment in time. Don't ever don't ever go away, because I'm wrapped in your arms, your accidental charm, your gentle ease, singing, baby, baby, please carry me headstrong. I'm afraid to be wrong, 'cause if it turns out we're right, we'll be really, really proud. Carry me headstrong. I'm afraid to be wrong, 'cause if it turns out we're right, we'll be really, really, really so right. Oh, there's glitter with you. Oh, there's glitter with you. Oh, there's glitter. It's on the water, and I'm with you. Calling me headstrong. I'm afraid to be wrong, 'cause if it turns out we're right, Nice. All right, that was Headstrong. I hope you sang along. I hope the sound also wasn't bugging out. It's doing a few things never done before, so hopefully it didn't just blow your eardrums. So before I call Shelby in for our interview, today's connection, right? But before I hit that, I'm gonna just give a shout out to the show's sponsor here, Fort Worth. They're an amazing advocacy program for small businesses, creatives, and musicians in Fort Worth. And personally, I'm just so grateful to Tom and his team for all the support that they've given me over the last year, and for this show that I'm able to make this happen, because they were supporting me going on tour, my transportation costs. So that's really amazing. Special shout out to them for making this possible. And so today, my theme is connection, right? I think it's pretty interesting how quarantine, it's actually, I've been more connected to a lot of people than usual because of the limitations of just like general where you're putting your time. And I think for me, like I've had way more phone conversations and FaceTimes than I usually do with people I wouldn't even usually see. It's not like because I'm not seeing them. So that's been really cool, I think, because everyone can like prioritize the time to connect. And because we have these opportunities available to connect with each other. So that's been a really cool thing about quarantine for me. So I'm very excited to bring on, I'm a little bit early. We'll just talk about more connection for a little bit. But yeah, how's everyone else's quarantine been? Has it been pretty connected with people you don't usually connect with? Because for me, even though I've been here in Texas, it's like I'm talking probably more to my friends who are far away just because everyone's on their phones and screens. And also, what's been your favorite mode of connection? Has it been like Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, Snapchat, Instagram video calls? I think my favorite, I'm glad for Zoom. I had never Zoomed before quarantine, and that's been a lot of fun. And also, but I'd say probably my favorite is Google Hangouts. I love a good Google Hangout. Brenda says, because we have time. Yeah, it's so true. We have the time to do it. We have the time to connect. Definitely for me, I just felt like so much pressure, always getting so much done before this time. Versus now it's kind of like, well, I have a lot of extra time, so we can take the time to kind of ground ourselves, share jokes, hit up our loved ones. I also feel like in general, like the content that's out, like on my social media feeds, has been more fun to consume. Like, I don't know, there's less like BS kind of. So more a connection that way of like, it's the kind of content more that I want to consume. So like this time you're spending on your screens is more fun. I think TikTok's the greatest example of that, because before quarantine I was like, would scroll through TikTok and feel like super weird. But then now during quarantine it's like, I don't know if it's just the algorithms, but I get a lot of really wholesome stuff and it's super hilarious and tons of fun. So that's been a really cool thing. I'm going to see if Shelby is available right now. She is an awesome person. I connected with her through a podcast group that we're both a part of. If anybody listens to the Almost 30 podcast, that's how we got connected. And she just released a book called Grandma's in the Phone. It's a children's book, which I think is just so timely right now with what's going on. And especially for me, because seeing my nephew and my sister have been living here at my parents', and seeing like Bo's, who is my nephew, connection to my mom and my dad, and like not in quarantine, they only live 5 minutes away, but his dad's parents, my sister's husband's parents, they live in Austin, so they really rely on FaceTime, and they really rely on being in the phone to connect with each other. So I think it's such a cool thing. I'm going to bring Shelby on now, and then I'll give y'all a little bit more information on her. And we'll talk to her. Sorry. Hey, Shelby, what's going on?
Hi, can you hear
Yay.
me?
Yes, perfect. Looking good.
Thanks, shower.
Yeah, that's great. So I just gave everyone, I'm just going to give a more official introduction of you right now. So Shelby, and do you say your last name Hoefling?
I say it Hoefling, yeah.
Hoefling, okay. So I'm so excited to have Shelby on. She is an incredible yoga teacher, wellness coach, and children's book author of Grandma's in the Phone, originally based in North Virginia. And is that where you are right now?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But she spent a year on the West Coast, and that was when she got the idea for her book, Grandma's in the Phone, because she was connecting with her grandma, who she calls Nanny, who's one of her best friends during that time. And she has a real passion for the elderly, and wanted to create this book to inspire children, really anybody of any age, to connect with their grandparents utilizing the gift that we have of technology that's available to us. So Shelby, it's a really cool book. I read it, my family's read it, my nephew read it, and he loves FaceTiming, so yeah, it's really perfect. I think it's such a cute idea, and it's so unique and definitely needed right now. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you've shared it with more people.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. So I guess I just wanted to ask you a couple questions. Like, I have a lot of questions actually. I thought of more since we connected earlier. One, what was your corporate job before you quit your corporate job?
So I worked for WeWork. It's a co-working space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
Worked there. I worked in a building in Santa Monica. I lived out in LA for 3 years.
Oh, 3 years. Okay.
Yeah. So I worked at that building for 3 years.
Nice. Cool. So then did you have the idea for the book, obviously, before you quit your job?
So I kind of, before I moved out to California, I was nannying a lot in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
And I would notice kids when their parents would call them on FaceTime when they were at work or something. Or grandparents even sometimes would call the kids that I would nanny for. I would notice the kids would just be moving the phone around, and I was like, hey, look at your mom wants to talk to you or something,
yeah.
Trying to help, knowing that the person on the other end wants to get a lot out of the conversation too. So it was kind of just a little bit of an idea then. And then when I moved out to California, then I was FaceTiming with my nanny. I call my grandma my nanny.
Yeah.
But so I was FaceTiming with her, and and then at that point, that's when I was like, wouldn't that be cool if someone wrote a children's book about people FaceTiming, like kids and grandparents FaceTiming? And I kind of was waiting for someone to write that book. I was like, every time I would look it up on Google, I was so surprised that nobody had written a book about it yet.
Yeah.
So I kept waiting and waiting, and then eventually I had mentioned it to a friend. And he was very much into the entrepreneurial life, and it was a member at WeWork, and he was like, oh, that's a great idea. You should just do it. And I think when that one person kind of believes in you, who's in that world of going after your dreams.
Yes.
Then I was like, okay, I'll do it. So then I played with it. I wrote it down on a napkin, and it was this idea. And then I quit my job, and then I took some time off traveling. And then I was like, okay, wait, this idea that I've had no time, now, might as well do it.
Totally. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's still I was just talking to my boyfriend the other day about this of if you have a creative idea, there's this real odd spiritual theory, that ideas, it's you're the vessel for it. So it's if you let a good idea go and you don't attack it, it will deliver itself to somebody else and they'll see it through. So that's awesome that you were just yeah, this is mine. Yeah.
Totally. Have you read the book Big Magic?
No.
She talks about it. She talks about it in there. And she had this idea for writing a book, and it was the most random, crazy, concept for this book. So random. And she had this idea, and then she saw this woman and like at a book signing, gave this woman a hug. Later down the line, they became friends, and she was Elizabeth Gilbert, like wrote a book and everything. And then the friend told her about this crazy idea she had, and it was the exact concept that she had. And she's like, I'm certain that in that hug, my idea went to her. So I believe in that for sure.
Yeah, same. Me too. I'm like, because the muse is, it's not my, because there's so many times I do something and I'm like, I don't know what this means. And I don't know what it means till like years later. And I'm like, all right, I guess that's what this is. Yeah.
Like, trust the process.
Yeah, that is so cool. Yeah. So I'm glad that you're the one that saw it through and you're like, I'm making this happen.
Thanks. I know. I'm grateful for that too. I'm just so surprised nobody else had done it yet.
It is surprising. Yeah, because it is like, and kids are so technologically savvy. I feel I used to also nanny in New York some like 4-year-old boy twins, and they knew how to do things on the phone like better than I knew how to do things on my iPhone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's so like, and I just love because in the book at the end you have like prompts of like ways to engage your grandparents and like special things to ask, what you should show them, what to prepare. And I think that's cool because it makes it more of an event and not just like another video game or whatever. It's like, it's this event of connection that you have with your grandparents.
Yeah. And it has like the power to truly impact your relationship from far away. I mean, I know for me, like when I do FaceTime my nephew who's in DC, you know, he's too young now anyways, he's 2.5, but like, even he can be an example, but anybody, sometimes you have a FaceTime conversation where they're distracted and they're not really paying attention. And then you have those FaceTime conversations where you're actually like really interacting and doing things together. And you just walk away feeling so much more fulfilled.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that it does that for people reading the book.
100%. Yeah. I think it's so great. It really like hankers in on that aspect of it. That's really good. Like the part where he's like, don't look at the fan. I don't want to FaceTime the fan. Yeah, this is great.
It's such a grandparent thing to do. My nanny does it all the time. All the time.
Yeah, so that was one. I have a couple more questions. With the like, is there any troubleshooting? Like, did you go through any period of like troubleshooting with your nanny of using that kind of technology when you first started FaceTiming her a lot? Or
well, I do have to rely on my aunt to answer. So I FaceTime my grandma mostly through my aunt's phone. My aunt will answer and do it.
Okay.
I have sat down with my nanny and I created like a template of how to use an iPhone. Tried to teach her. I think that they have to want to show up and learn. She was resistant and reluctant, and like she walked into it thinking like, I can't use this iPhone, it's too hard.
Yeah.
Walking with that mindset, you're not going to learn it. But so I feel like they are capable of learning how to use the iPhone, like no matter how old you are, what generation, but you have to want to.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I mostly just use my aunt to be able to call my grandma.
Yeah, that's a good like tip to think of like, you don't have to directly call your grandma. Like if there's somebody that's there that you can connect with to help, like that's a great troubleshooting tip that I didn't even think about. So it's like, that's great. But I was curious too, so before writing the book, did you have like, can you hear me, Shelby?
I can hear you now. Yeah,
Okay.
pause, but we're good.
Yeah. Did you have any background like in English or like did you major in that or anything like that, or did you always think I wanted to write a book, or you weren't sure?
No, I never thought that I wanted to write a book, and I have no background in English, which is great for anybody thinking of doing it. Like, just do it. Sometimes people will reach out to me and they're like, well, like, how did you do it? And like, what did you do before? Did you take like a program or learn anything? And I'm like, I just kind of did it. There's enough resources online now to figure out that stuff. I do think that for me, writing, it doesn't come easy. I do have to like really get into the zone, and It's definitely not like natural for me. So I do have to do a lot of editing and stuff. But I do think that like for my next book, when I do eventually write a next book, like a children's book, I feel like I'll kind of have it down pat a little bit more. But for this one, I would work on the manuscript for this book. Like, I mean, I probably edited it a minimum of 50 times. And it's
Yeah.
a children's book, and you read the book like, how many more ways could you do this? But like, I can't even, I mean, I should try and find my first manuscript and compare the two, but I would edit it in a million ways. And I feel like it's kind of harder with a children's book because you really want to drive home things really fast. So I had to cut out a lot, and I had to like really try and picture myself in like the child's mind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I edited it a lot. My friend would be like, "What are you up to?" And I'm like editing the manuscript, and she's like, "Isn't it like 20 pages?" Like, I don't understand, but it was a lot.
Yeah, and like, because I think with children's book too, like it's so simple, but the themes really have to connect, and that's definitely something with like reading stories to my nephew that I feel it's like everything does make sense. It's like it's harder to be simple than complex as an adult. It is much harder to be like, life is simple. A story can be simple and be as meaningful as Lord of the Rings, like.
Yeah, it just drive home the message. That's all you need to do. And like give them things where they walk away and they learned from it. Yeah, it's hard to get into that, like it's just simplicity.
Yeah. I think it's amazing, and I really like admire too that you had this idea and then you're like, I'm just gonna do it, and like having the courage to execute it. I mean, were you kind of like, it doesn't really matter because it's not like I have this. Oh, my dog just opened the door. I have this like big reputation of like I'm a children's book author for 10 years. You know what I mean? Were you kind of like, this is gonna be fun because I'll just throw it out there and see what happens, or were you doubting yourself sometimes, or how did that go?
So I feel like the main reason why it did take me, I mean, it essentially took me like thinking of the idea and then actually doing it 3 years. So there was a lot of doubt in those 3 years. And every time I would tell people about it wasn't until that one person, like his face lit up and he was like, that's a great idea. But every other person that I had told up until then didn't seem excited about it. Like they were like, okay, that's a cool idea. And I would say, no, but like there's no children's book out there like it. There needs to be one. And they'd be like, cool, like, okay. And so eventually when he kind of like looked at like seemed excited, I finally like felt that excitement. It wasn't from a family member, it was from like someone who didn't owe it to me.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me going. And then when I made the move to like start looking into it, what really got me going was I was looking into like Facebook groups for like children's writers and writing children's books and stuff. And then I started to reach out to people and asking them like their journey and what they suggest. And then I found someone who was doing like an author group, and it was like a 12-week, like I'll guide you through the process of writing a book. So once I started to like bring some accountability to it and then almost like putting it out there into the universe that I was doing it, at that point I felt like I couldn't turn back. Because then I've already said this, so now like I don't want to be someone who turns back on my word.
Yeah, even just for yourself is like.
Yeah, for myself, totally, just like integrity. And so whenever people ask me about that, they're like, "But how did you?" And like, "How do I even get started?" And there's doubt. How do you do it with the doubt? And I always just say like, just make those first few steps, and they might feel uncomfortable, but there's also going to be a sense of pride with them. And then once you make those, then you're kind of in it. Yeah. Like you're there, you're in the thick of it, and then you can just keep going.
Definitely. That's great advice. I totally feel that like my only regret ever with music is that I just didn't like release something and then keep going because I felt it wasn't good enough, but it's like nothing's ever good enough. So I think the only way to get better is to just do it and see, and then next time you do it, it's naturally going to be better because you have experience. So yeah,
there's nobody out there who says like, oh yeah, that perfect thing that you see, that was my first thing that I put out there.
Yeah.
Like you hear those wonderful stories about people who tried things for 10 years and then finally after 10 years it works. So
Yeah.
it's just like you got to put in you just got to try it.
Definitely. Yeah. So now I saw at the end of the book, how it's like, who else do you want to see in the phone? Like sister, brother, auntie, uncle. So are you going to keep doing more family in the phone books?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would love to, of course, because like I eventually want grandpa to be in the phone and then auntie to be in the phone for
Cool.
sure.
Yeah.
And like uncle. And then I also really would love like mom and dad, especially for those that are working like and they're traveling for work and they're FaceTiming. So I wanted to add all of those. I'm like toying between keeping it within like Mac FaceTiming different people or going of like a completely different route and just like a whole new family of like a whole new like ethnicity, racial background. I'm even thinking about like India, like think like
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like playing with that right now, but it's definitely is something I want to do, but for now I want to keep pushing this grandma's in the phone out there, so I can have like a little bit more of a following.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome. Dang, I think it's so great. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any like tips or tricks that you want to quickly bestow to anybody watching for right
Um,
now during quarantine?
I don't know. I mean, I think right now, especially in this moment where like we have an opportunity to like pause and just embrace the stillness. If there's anything at any point right now, as you're listening to this, you're thinking to yourself, "Oh yeah, I should have done that." Then just do that. Like whatever that was that came up in your mind just now, that's the thing that maybe you should go for. I would say that.
That is great advice.
Yeah.
You're so good. Yes, thank you so much for coming on. If y'all want to follow Shelby, you can. These are her. I have it here on the screen. Her website is shelbyhoefling.net. And you can follow her on Instagram at Shelby Hoefling. And she's also a yoga teacher, as you know from that wise advice that she just gave us. And she teaches Yin Yoga, which is all about stillness and stretching and grounding yourself. And she does that every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time
Yeah.
on her Instagram Live. So follow her, check that out. Thank you so much for coming on, Shelby. You're so kind and beautiful. I'm just so honored that you came on to talk about your book. So everyone go buy her book and check it out and read it to your kids or send it to a kid you know.
Yes. Thank you. This has been wonderful. I'm really grateful.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank you.
much.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Perfect. That was Shelby. Like I said, you can follow her at Shelby Hoefling or shelbyhoefling.net. Such a cool idea. I really admire people who just have an idea and go for it with like full stop, full send, no it takes a lot, I know, just personally, to like release your inhibitions or to stop talking negatively to yourself, to just see something through. So I think it's really cool that she did that, and I'm so excited to follow her journey and see where her next books take us in the realm of FaceTiming. I'm gonna close this door real fast, and I'm wearing a really weird outfit, so I didn't think I'd get up. My dog can open doors, and it's sometimes not the greatest. So today for thoughts and prayers, I'm just gonna round this out. We're just gonna do a quick prayer for all the grandparents and all those connecting from afar, which is really everyone you're not quarantined with. And then we'll sing a song, and I'll get out of here. So, all right, you can take this however you want. Dear God, thank you so much for this time that we're able to get on here and use our technology to connect with each other. I think the biggest lesson for me in quarantine has been the need for connection and to not make excuses, to prioritize connection. So I just thank you for opening up my eyes and my heart to that. And to better connect and understand even my family that I'm here with, and those who are far away from me that I sometimes struggle to make time to really connect with. Thank you so much for giving us these tools and the want to connect with each other. I pray that we all prioritize what's really good for us right now during these times. Thank you for Shelby and for her message. Thank you for all the grandparents who are hopefully thriving right now in quarantine, doing activities that they like to do. I pray for anyone who's sick right now during this time that you will just pour goodness into their lungs and help them heal up and get better. I pray for everyone who's working to fight this virus, and I pray for patience for all of us so that we can continue to look towards the sun and be hopeful and know that a new time of life is coming. And thank you for the stillness to be able to reflect and connect with each other. Amen. All right, for my last song here, I'm going to sing Sunday Morning. Just an old, faithful song, kind of about connection, right? Sunday morning rain is falling. Steep some cover, share some skin. Clouds are shrouding us in moments unforgettable. You twist to fit the mold that I am in. I have to pause this. But things just get so crazy, living life gets hard to do. And I would gladly hit the road, get up and go if I knew that someday it would lead me back to you. That someday it would lead me back to you. That may be all I need. In darkness, He is all I see. Come and rest your bones with me. I'm driving slow on Sunday morning, and I never want to leave. Fingers stretch your every outline. Oh yeah. Paint a picture with my hands. No. I'm softly sway like branches in a storm. Change that weather, still together when it ends. Don't you know that maybe all I need? In darkness, He is all I see. Come and rest your bones with me. Driving slow on Sunday morning, and I never want to leave. That may be all I need. Slow on Sunday morning, and I never want to leave. 'Cause things just get so crazy, living life gets hard to do. And Sunday morning rain is falling, and I'm calling out to you, saying someday it'll lead me back to you. I got to leave myself back home to you. Don't you know that maybe all I need? In darkness, He is all I see. Come and rest your bones with me. Driving slow on Sunday morning, and I never want to leave. Driving slow on Sunday morning, and I never want. I'm driving slow on Sunday morning, and I never want to leave. Thank y'all so much. This has been my Thursday episode of Home Church. I hope you'll tune back in with me next week. Thinking about having a dance party. Maybe teaching a dance. What does everybody think? Let me know in the comments. Also, my merch is online. If you like this hat and you'd like to purchase any, you can go to my website. Thank y'all so much for being here. I hope everyone has an amazing day. I hope if it's nice wherever you are, you're able to pop your head out the window and enjoy some of that good weather. All right, love y'all lots. Happy quarantining. Bye.